Okay, today I'm going to go over the proper setup procedures for a confined space rescue, setting up the air manifold, the communication system, and also getting the rescuer properly dressed, properly outfitted to enter a confined space. It's a big operation to get set up on the front end. It's really vital and essential that you set it up properly, organized in an organized fashion to just make the operation go as smooth as possible. So it's organized chaos. It's really important for the IC or the confined space tech who's really kind of in charge to make sure things are put in place right. So we'll start with the air system. You're gonna have air and communications. If you're gonna need that for that confined space, if there is a problem with air quality, contaminants, whatnot, you're gonna do the full setup. Air needs to be pretty close to the confined space entry, which is, we have set up as that cone over there. You want air pretty close because our air lines, air communication lines, are only 100 feet length. So you want to make sure before you enter the space that you have a good idea of how far you need to go, whether it be 100 feet, 200 feet. OSHA has regulations that we can't go further than 300 feet. It's very important that you know that. It's very vital because once we enter that space, say with just one setup of 100 feet, we're married to that 100 feet. If we have to go further, that means we need to bring the entrant out of the hole, pigtail another comm airline to it, and then let them enter again so they could go further. So very vital that we set that up properly on the front end. Communications, we want to have set up further back. We don't want them right on top of each other. That's why for our air comm lines in these starter packs, we have a longer tail or extension for this communication line. So air line will go directly into that air manifold. This comm line we will want to run on the outside of all of our cylinders in our whole air manifold setup, so it's out of the way, so it's nice and clean. And then we're going to have a comm person going to be back away from that air manifold. You're going to have a dedicated person just set up for this air manifold. We'll go over the proper procedures here. So this box is set up in a way that we have the label Rescue 42 needs to be up, so the box actually is orientated upside down. So when you set it down I guess upside down, open it up. We have it laid out here. We have 4 ports on top, 3 ports in the middle, 4 ports on the bottom. This gives us the ability to split it up in 2 teams. So we would call this Team A, this would be Team B, and you're able to split or isolate this system with this valve here. Great practice. Keep these 2 teams isolated, separate from each other so that they're not breathing. You don't ever have possibly 2 rescuers and 2 rescuers here breathing off of 1 cylinder if this whole system is open. How we set this up is with 4 cylinders. We all have quick connects on each end of these lines. So I have these 2 cylinders properly set up. You'll make sure all the whips are closed, the whip leaders are closed. Let's organize these bottles in a fashion where they're easy to see. Okay, leaders closed. So I have 4 cylinders connected, 2 on here, 2 on here. The beauty of this system is that we have one-way valves. So if I have both of those cylinders opened at the same time, they're not going to equalize. They'll stay at the same pressure coming through here. How we run this system is my Team A or Team 1 will be connected on these 4 ports, on these 2 ports here. I will open 1 cylinder, okay? Make sure that I'm using a full cylinder, bleeder's closed. I come to my gauge. This first gauge is gonna tell me what my cylinder pressure is. This second gauge is gonna tell me what my outlet pressure is. We wanna stay between 80 and 110 PSI. That's really based on what the rescuers tell us, if they need more air, if they need less air. It's really how hard they're working and how much they're breathing. The person who's controlling the air manifold will adjust that, but a good place to start just start at 110. So you'll adjust this cylinder. We're about right 110 there. So again, I have one cylinder open, one cylinder closed. I come over here. I have my first COM air line connected in. I'm going to connect my second line. So we utilize orange for one rescuer and black for the other. How we have these bags loaded is they're in a lineman's coil. The coil with the long tag communication line is going to go to the air manifold. It's going to be coming out of the bottom of the lineman's coil, so you'll lay that there. The end with the shorter lines, the shorter orange communication line, is going to go to the rescuer. These connections are kind of, has a bead at the bottom, a cutout at the top. Depress so that collar's set, and then connect your line in. Turn that collar so that this can't be disconnected accidentally, okay? Again, take this communication line. We're gonna get that out of the way. So we're gonna run it on the outside of our cylinders, our whole setup here, all the way back to our COM box. We'll go over that in a minute. All right, so I have Team 1's airlines connected to that port. We're going to demo how we want to bleed these lines. So each of these lines need to be bled for a minimum of 1 minute. So we are going to be sacrificing air out of that first cylinder. So we come here, we connect line 1 to an escape bottle, come to the regulator, purge the regulator for 1 minute, okay? I would do the same thing with another escape pack to that line, so on and so forth for the entrants that are going, for how many rescuers that are gonna be entering that confined space. You purge each one of their lines for a minimum of 1 minute. Okay, lines are purged. Come back here, I check my air. This air manifold attendant is going to keep an eye on this air. When we want to change, do a bottle swap prior to 500 psi. We have a low pressure whistle, which is right here. It'll go off at 500 psi. So prior to that, we always want to give air before we take air. So all you would simply do, this bottle's open, this one's closed. I would open this second bottle. Make sure that this is nice and tight. Okay. Open second bottle. Close first bottle. Bleed. And then do a bottle swap. With a fresh bottle, you're ready to rock. Okay? Leave that closed. We have this bottle open. Again, you'll watch your gauge here. Switch that when you're at about 750 psi. We have the options with this air manifold system with a high pressure inlet. So if we bring the air trailer to the scene, we could be running those direct connected into here, and it would bypass the bottle system. We just have a direct connection with our system there. To operate a second team off of this system, we'll stay organized, check my bleeder, make sure everything's nice and tight. Okay, we'll open one bottle on this side. I'm gonna check my pressure, I'm about 5,500. Okay, we're isolated. I'm gonna check here. I have about 90 PSI going out to these ports here. It's gonna be reading on that gauge there. It's harder to see on this gauge here, but if I need to decrease or increase pressure, I'll do it right here. I bumped it to 110, so we're good there. Now I would just get another set of air comm lines, and I'd start plugging them into here. Again, connect them to escape packs, bleed them for a minute, and we just go so on and so forth. You go through the same procedures doing bottle swaps there. So it's very important that this air manifold attendant is keeping an eye on how much air we have in the system, how hard the rescuers are breathing, asking them and talking to them, or communicating with the person who's running comms. How are they doing? Do they need more? Do they need less? So on and so forth, okay? We'll move on to connecting the communication lines here. Our box setup is, once you open this box, you're gonna have this picture diagram that basically lays it all out for you in a nice organized fashion, more like that. Follow this diagram. So how I have it connected here, each of these connection ports, they're very hard to connect when they're dry, so you have to wet them with a little bit of saliva and line up the orange mark with the orange dot, push and do a slight turn, about an 1/8 or 1/4 inch turn, and they'll lock in place, okay? So we have the communication operator is gonna be hooked right here where it says operator. We have our splitter here for our 2 teams. We have team 1, A and B, is going to be operating this side. Team 2, C and D, will be operating on this side. So we just have 1 team operating currently. Get our connections wet. Line up. Push. Okay. I don't have team 2 operating, so I can turn my control knob just to team 1. If I had another team, I would leave this knob both so I could hear both sides, both communications, okay? I have this talk box. A good usage of this talk box is to connect it to this 3rd port. It has a long leash. I have the mute connected on to this talk box. So, good method of thought, or good train of thought, is to always leave this muted, so it's depressed. That means it's closed and off and muted. When this is open, that's an open mic, so leave that muted, so that all the talking and noise that's happening by the air manifold is not going to be relayed back through this talk box back to the rescuers. Basically, if you move this over to the air manifold, this allows this attendant, this air manifold person, to hear how those rescuers are doing down in the hole. So there's less talking back and forth here. They can adjust air pressures based on what they're hearing, how they're working. Coming back over to here, we have a small, 10-foot leash that the communication attendant can use, so it gives them a little bit of freedom of movement. You'll come here and you'll turn this on. You always want to check. So while they're getting all set up, after we get this communication line set up, we want to check. And you want to see this battery indicator blinking green. Okay, that's telling you have fresh batteries. This can mistakenly be left on sometimes. So if you turn this on, you don't see a flashing green, that means these batteries are dead. You simply use, we have a screwdriver and a toolkit in here, flathead, undo those 2 screws, pop this cap off, and it's 3 C batteries that you'll put in here, okay? Okay, verify that it's on. Make sure that before the rescuers enter the hole, we adjust the volume so you can hear them, they can hear you. Also the talk box volume, you want to make sure you adjust that. We have a noise reduction button here. So if the rescuers are down in the hole, they're using air tools, any kind of loud equipment, all that ambient noise can get really distracting. So you will press and hold this noise reduction, and it'll allow you to still communicate with those rescuers, but it'll quiet down the ambient noise.